The story of Ruth is one of the most touching and inspiring narratives in the Bible. Set during the era of the Judges, it tells how a foreign woman became part of God's covenant people through her love, loyalty, and faith. Ruth, a Moabite widow, chose to stay with her Israelite mother-in-law Naomi during a time of deep personal loss and uncertainty. Her decision to follow the God of Israel and live among his people eventually led her to a new life filled with hope and blessing. Ruth's story shows how God rewards faithfulness and uses ordinary people for extraordinary purposes. Famine in Bethlehem. The story begins with a severe famine in Bethlehem, forcing a man named Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their two sons to leave their homeland and settle in Moab, a foreign land. Seeking survival, they hoped to find stability in Moab, but their time there brought unexpected trials. This difficult beginning sets the stage for the dramatic events that follow. The famine not only represents physical hunger, but also spiritual hardship for Naomi's family. Their relocation shows how people often move in search of better lives, yet God's greater plan is still at work, even in times of crisis and displacement. Loss in Moab. While in Moab, tragedy strikes Naomi's family. First, her husband Elimelech dies, leaving her a widow. Her two sons marry Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth, but after 10 years, both sons also die. Naomi is left in a foreign land with no husband, no sons, and no clear future. This period of sorrow marks a low point in Naomi's life. She feels abandoned and bitter, even changing her name to Mara, meaning bitter. This moment highlights the depths of human grief and despair, but it also paves the way for God's plan of redemption to unfold through Ruth's unwavering love and commitment. Ruth's loyalty. When Naomi decides to return to Bethlehem, she urges her daughters-in-law to stay in Moab and remarry. Orpah eventually agrees and leaves, but Ruth clings to Naomi. In a powerful declaration of loyalty, Ruth says, "Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God." Ruth 1:16. Ruth's choice is extraordinary. She leaves behind her homeland, culture, and religion to follow Naomi and the God of Israel. This moment defines her character and marks a turning point in the story. Ruth's love and faithfulness become a shining example of devotion, courage, and trust in God. Return to Bethlehem. Naomi and Ruth arrive in Bethlehem at the start of the barley harvest. Their return stirs the town, and people are surprised to see Naomi again, especially with a Moabite woman. Naomi expresses her bitterness about her losses, yet Ruth quietly supports her. This return marks a new beginning, though the future is uncertain. Ruth is a foreigner in a strange land, and both women are poor widows with no immediate means of support. Still, their arrival during harvest signals hope. God's timing is evident, as he prepares to provide for them through unseen blessings waiting in Bethlehem's fields. Ruth gleans in the fields. To help provide for herself and Naomi, Ruth goes to glean in the fields, collecting leftover grain as the poor were allowed to do under Israelite law. She happens to work in the field of Boaz, a wealthy and kind man from Elimelech's family. Ruth works hard from morning to evening, showing humility, strength, and responsibility. Her actions reflect her deep commitment to Naomi and her willingness to serve. Though she has little, Ruth makes the most of her opportunity. This simple act of gleaning opens the door to a series of divine appointments that will eventually change both their lives. Boaz notices. Boaz arrives and notices Ruth's dedication and hard work in the fields. He inquires about her and learns of her loyalty to Naomi and her foreign status. Moved by her story, Boaz speaks kindly to Ruth, offering her protection and encouraging her to stay in his field with the other workers. His generosity and respect toward Ruth reveal his noble character and compassion. Ruth is deeply touched and expresses her gratitude, amazed that someone of Boaz's status would show such kindness to a foreigner. This moment of favor marks the beginning of a special connection between Ruth and Boaz. Boaz's protection. Boaz goes beyond basic kindness by instructing his workers to protect Ruth and leave extra grain for her to glean. He invites her to eat with his harvesters and treats her with dignity and honor. Boaz's actions reflect godly leadership and foreshadow the role of a redeemer. When Ruth returns home with an abundance of grain, Naomi is surprised and encouraged. She praises God and realizes that Boaz is a close relative who could help them. This protection and provision from Boaz are signs of God's providence at work, preparing a path toward restoration, safety, and eventually redemption.